Okay, enough of that, Tai Li. Sasuke stood up, exhaustion clear in his posture. His red hair fell over his left eye, while his right, blue and faintly glowing, peered through the strands. Here, in this world, he was no longer Sasuke. He was Lucifer. And now, he faced a girl with warm brown eyes, her ever-present smile stretching from ear to ear. Then there was a thump from a slamming door to the right. His eyes flicked to the right, where the translucent door slid open, revealing a familiar face. Good morning, class. The woman who entered was middle-aged, her graying hair neatly tied into a bun. Thin-rimmed glasses framed her face, her expression unreadable behind deep-set wrinkles. She was their teacher, his teacher in this world. Because of Rei's achievements, Sasuke, no, Lucifer, had earned a place in this prestigious university. The teacher gracefully made her way to the front. Settling before a short-legged table dot, she knelt into Caesar position, legs folded neatly beneath her, heels tucked under her thighs, her posture perfectly upright. The rest of the class followed suit, each seated before their own short-legged table, a chabudai. It made sleeping in class nearly impossible, though Sasuke couldn't help but admire the effectiveness of such a setup. It was said that Caesar had once been a measure against assassins, forcing them into a vulnerable position, limiting their ability to strike. Of course, to someone truly powerful, such tricks were meaningless. Recite the Fire Nation's oath, as rehearsed. All moved in unison, shifting from the Caesar position to stand. Now on their feet, Sasuke turned to face the back of the classroom alongside the others. In perfect synchronization, the gazes were moved to the large poster of Fire Lord Ozai. Then, as tradition dictated since the day Sasuke entered this school, they recited the oath. With a small bow, Sasuke hands clasped, right hand forming a fist, left palm open to cover it, first to the right, then to the left. My life I give to my country. With my hands, I fight for Fire Lord Ozai and the forefathers before him. With my mind, I seek ways to better my country. And with my feet, may our march of civilization continue. Once the recitation of the oath was complete, they turned to face the front before settling back into Caesar position. Sasuke was a student of the Fire Nation. Sasuke had always known this moment would come, but somehow, it still felt too soon. For our first day, the teacher announced, we will begin with a pop quiz. A collective sigh of defeat echoed through the room. All except for Sasuke. For the first time in his life, he did not sigh. Being a baby with the mind of an adult made all the difference. The advantage was staggering. And with access to his mother's vast library, every moment spent reading had been worthwhile. Fire Nation history, the great march of civilization, even the study of hybrids in this world, he had read it all. He may no longer have the Sharingan, but his experience alone created a gap so vast it was almost unfair. Sasuke moved, opening his notebook and grabbing his pencil. Question 1. What year did Fire Lord Sozin battle the Air Nation army? Recalling the lesson from the Great March of Civilization. The year was 0 AG, marking the beginning of the 100-Year War. Fire Lord Sozin, harnessing the power of Sozin's comet, unleashed devastation upon the air nomads, eradicating their entire civilization under the guise of eliminating a military threat. But history had always shown that such destruction was rarely about mere survival. Conquest, control, and the removal of perceived threats had always been the true motivations behind such acts. If fear were the only factor, containment or exile would have sufficed, just like the Uchiha massacre. Sasuke was not surprised by the sight of his clan being slaughtered. He understood that greed and fear often walked hand in hand. The massacre was not merely an act of vengeance or cruelty, it was the eradication of an entire culture, a decision driven by fear disguised as necessity. A similar pattern could be seen in the Air Nation's destruction. Strategically, their military settlements were built atop high cliffs, isolated and naturally fortified. Attacking such strongholds offered no real advantage. No army would waste resources on an assault unless there was another motive at play. As soon as Sasuke's thoughts passed, the bell rang, signaling the start of the students' break. This time was usually meant for relaxation. The more at ease the mind, the better it could absorb indoctrination. Standing up from their Caesar positions, some students stretched, relieving the stiffness from sitting for so long. As for Sasuke, he took a moment to reflect on how quickly time had passed. Sasuke, looking forward to some physical activities, grabbed his bag and slid it to his back. Tai Li smiled at Lucifer, her cheerfulness still intact. Hey, Lucifer. Are you heading outside for a break? Just as Sasuke was about to leave, Ty Lee suddenly appeared too close for comfort, leaving him with little room to breathe. Yeah. Why? Did you need something? Ty Lee grinned, standing so close that Sasuke could almost feel her breath. Tilting her head to the side, she wore an expression of innocent curiosity. Oh, no. I just wanted to say hi. It's been a while since we've talked outside of class. Mai rolled her eyes at the overly cheerful interaction, while Azula silently observed, her gaze never leaving Sasuke. Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll be on my way. Ty Lee pouted, but Azula wasn't about to let Sasuke slip away so easily. Or, leaving so soon. We didn't even get a chance to chat. Sasuke, recognizing the dangerous creature that was Azula, instinctively took a few steps back, careful to avoid her grasp. She had already ensnared 2 others in her web. He wouldn't be next. Azula. Did I interrupt your conversation? Hopefully, Ty Lee, I didn't ruin anything important. Azula placed a hand on Ty Lee's shoulder. No, not at all, Azula, Ty Lee replied, forcing a polite smile. Azula then shifted her attention back to Sasuke, her gaze sharp with amusement. Tell me, how does the son of a lieutenant find himself here? I must say, I never expected to see you at the Royal Fire Academy. Did someone pull a few strings, or are they lowering their standards? Sasuke is unsure of Azula's true intentions. Why had she approached him this way? What was she after? Justifying my actions is of no concern to you. Well, I take your word for it. I wouldn't want you to give up the break you've been given just to talk with me. Azula's words carried the usual undertones of amusement, but this time, Sasuke was free to leave. He had learned from experience. Ignoring her often led to situations that shouldn't have happened under normal circumstances. Of course, say hi to Zuzu for me. Just as he was about to step through the doorway, he caught her final remark. He didn't bother responding. Instead, he kept walking. To Sasuke, Azula had always been trouble. Even as children, he had counted her at every turn. Though each time, their encounters were inevitably broken up by Zuko or even General Iroh. But now, there was no one left to interfere. Walking outside into the courtyard of the Fire Nation Royal Academy, the air is filled with the buzz of students chatting and playing. Noise fills the area, leaving little room for quiet or peace. Sasuke is not surprised. Expecting 10-year-olds to be anything but noisy would be wishful thinking. Sasuke's thoughts drift back to his shinobi days, where he was constantly surrounded by the chatter of admirers and the grumbling of men. That noise had often set him apart from boys his age. But back then, he hadn't cared. He was a revenger, consumed by the pursuit of vengeance against the clan Itachi had destroyed. His gaze sweeps across the academy grounds. The buildings stand with red-tiled roofs, golden accents, and white or beige walls, a testament to the Fire Nation's discipline and grandeur. Teachers and soldiers patrol the area, keeping watch for any unwanted behavior, their presence reinforcing the structured order of the academy. If this is an academy, then there is knowledge, books, lessons, and teachings. But what could this place offer me that I don't already know? That thought lingers in Sasuke's mind as he considers his next move. Perhaps a teacher could answer that. With that in mind, Sasuke walks toward one of the instructors. Before Sasuke could reach an instructor, 3 students blocked his path, each nearly twice his height. Judging by their uniforms and build, they were high schoolers. Hey, watch it, kid. You're getting my uniform dirty. Maybe he doesn't get what's going on. Should we teach him? Another obstacle, one that could be dealt with easily, but wasting time on him wasn't worth it. Fighting or reasoning would accomplish nothing. Instead, Sasuke stepped to the right, intending to pass by. They moved with him. Where do you think you're going? We're not done chatting. We just want to talk, that's all. The third student smirked and lazily stretched his arm, aiming to rest his elbow on Sasuke's head, only to hit empty air. In the blink of an eye, Sasuke was gone, already walking toward the instructor, still intent on getting directions before the break ended. But they weren't about to let him go so easily. Hey, quit ignoring us, jackass. The first student drew back his fist, aiming a cheap shot at Sasuke's back. Sasuke didn't even turn. He sidestepped smoothly, catching the student's arm and using his own momentum against him. In an instant, the student was yanked forward and slammed face first into the ground. Hey, we're not done talking. The other 2 attacked simultaneously. The second student launched a roundhouse kick. Sasuke leaned back, dodging with ease, but before he could counter, the third grabbed his arms, locking them in an attempt to immobilize him. Sasuke reacted instantly. He jumped, Driving the back of his head into his captor's face, the grip loosened. He broke free. The second student recovered fast and resorted to firebending, sending a stream of flames directly at Sasuke. Without hesitation, Sasuke countered, redirecting the fire away with a controlled burst of his own. The deflected flames veered left, narrowly missing a group of students. Shouts erupted. The sudden display of firebending drew immediate attention. Within seconds, soldiers and teachers converged, surrounding Sasuke, cutting off every escape route. The instructors rushed to aid the downed student, seemingly ignoring who had started the fight. A soldier stepped forward, eyes cold and unforgiving. No firebending on campus. It's a strict rule of the academy. Breaking it means immediate expulsion. He jabbed a finger in Sasuke's face, treating him as if he was some kind of threat. Sasuke knows that he did not start the fight. Why was he at fault for the actions of a student? Knowing this, he would need some backing if he wanted to get out of this situation. Sasuke, who is deep in thought, saw the obstacle crawling like hurt animals to the teacher, picturing the scene, not guilty. Picking fights on your first day. An old man walked through the ring of soldiers surrounding Sasuke. The soldiers stepped aside, clearing a path for him. As he approached, Sasuke took in his stern features, the long, pointed goatee and the two thin, curved mustache strands extending from the sides of his upper lip. The crowd, which had been murmuring about the ordeal, suddenly fell silent. No one dared to speak, afraid that drawing attention to themselves might ruin their standing, or worse, lead to expulsion. We will hold a conference to discuss your punishment. Bring your parents to my office after school. Sasuke opened his mouth to argue, but the old man's tone left no room for debate. Don't be late. The unconscious obstacles were carried away by some of the soldiers, leaving only the one who had threatened Sasuke with expulsion. You're lucky, kid. At least he didn't ask for a youth correction on you, the soldier said, ruffling Sasuke's red hair before following the old man. Sasuke stood still, watching them leave, his mind drifting. Was there yet another layer of indoctrination designed to keep people loyal to this nation? As that thought lingered, the ringing of the bell signaled the start of another session of conditioning. Even though Sasuke had no intention of falling for such childish tricks, it was just another layer that made up the Fire Nation. With a quiet breath, he turned and stepped onto the stone floor, making his way up the steps. Hey, Lucifer. How's your break? Tai Li backflipped towards Sasuke, landing perfectly in front of him. Sasuke, still wary of physical closeness, especially with Tai Li, instinctively took a small step back. The people around them casually moved out of the way, unfazed by her usual antics. I've been better. What about you? I didn't see you in the courtyard. Yeah, I was just eating in the cafeteria, and I brought extra. With a smile, Tai Li pulled out a duffel bag filled with steaming bean buns, each wrapped neatly in paper. Sasuke had planned to eat earlier but got sidetracked on his way to the library, preoccupied with gathering information. However, various obstacles, both useful and unsavory, had delayed him, whether from students, teachers, or soldiers. Now, hunger gnawed at him. After a brief hesitation, he accepted Tai Li's offer. Thanks. You're welcome. Sasuke nodded and hid his bean buns in his pocket before continuing his walk to the classroom. Tai Li, walking alongside him, still grinned from ear to ear, as cheerful as ever. Hey, Lucifer, you're amazing at fighting. Seeing you fight is so rare nowadays. Did your father train you? Yeah, my father taught me how to fight when he came home after his promotion ceremony to lieutenant. Sasuke hadn't been trained in any complex techniques, mostly just the basics of firebending discipline, like breath control. That was about it. Instead, he tried to incorporate his past experience as a shinobi into this life, adapting his skills while removing chakra and focusing solely on firebending. The bending styles in this world varied depending on the nation. Living in the Fire Nation, Sasuke either had no bending or firebending. Fortunately, he was lucky enough to have the latter. That's amazing. Have you ever thought about joining a dojo to sharpen those skills? I have, but I don't know where to find a school that teaches that discipline. Sasuke was still an expert in swordsmanship and hand-to-hand combat. His clan had trained him to be as great as, if not greater than, his brother Itachi. When it came to sharpening his skills, it was better to train under a master rather than make it seem like his abilities had appeared out of nowhere. Hiding the true source of his strength was just as important as refining it. Tai Li gasped when she heard Sasuke's words, her eyes lighting up with excitement. You're in luck. I know of a master swordsman, said to be the greatest in Fire Nation's history. even without bending, once said he was strong enough to take down an entire army. And the best part? He lives on top of a mountain. And who is this legendary master? Master Piandao. As their conversation ended, Sasuke and Tai Li stepped into the classroom and went to their respective chabudai. Even as he sat down in Caesar position, Sasuke remained deep in thought about Master Piandao. He'd been trained by masters in the past, so this wouldn't be the first time. Learning from a skilled teacher wasn't a bad notion. If anything, it would make him stronger. Sasuke decided to ask where he could find this sword master after class. Knock, knock. As the sound of the giant wooden doors echoed through the environment, Sasuke later asked Tai Li where he could find this master. However, the only answer she could provide was, on top of the mountain. It was a vague response, making the search far more frustrating than a straightforward answer. After asking around for a bit and getting nowhere, Sasuke had no choice but to let it go, for now. A few days later, Sasuke was invited back to the Fire Nation Palace to play with kids his age, which essentially meant babysitting. However, something about the visit intrigued him. While there, he noticed the young Prince Zuko heading out, accompanied by a curved sword being carried inside a carriage for him. Curious, Sasuke asked Zuko where he was going. And now, somehow, he found himself in this situation, unexpectedly tagging along with the prince. The giant doors groaned as they opened, their aged hinges creaking with the movement. As they swung wide, Sasuke saw a stout man dressed in a hanfu, long robes with wide-legged pants, adorned with red and gold accents. It was a traditional outfit, typically reserved for formal occasions rather than everyday wear. "Good morning, Prince Zuko, and your companion," the man said, bowing respectfully to the prince. "Master Piandao is expecting you."